Hey there guys, how are you? Welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to be discussing AEW's Fight for the Fallen event, which aired on this past week's episode of Dynamite live on TNT. Now this is the second annual Fight for the Fallen event. Of course, AEW raising money for charity. This year their proceeds are going towards COVID-19 relief, which I think is absolutely incredible. But yeah, let's get going with the show. And it starts off hot and heavy with a TNT Championship match. Cody defending his title against Sonny Kiss. Now, JR notes on commentary that Cody is currently on an 11-match winning streak at this point. This is arguably the biggest match of Sonny Kiss's entire career so far, and he comes out with a huge entrance. He comes out along with a couple of the Jacksonville Jaguars cheerleaders, and they do a little dance routine, which I think was pretty cool. But this match started off very quickly. Cody Rhodes with a very quick disaster kick for a near fall. Sonny Kiss starts off with a flurry of offense along with a very vicious looking spinning elbow. One of the biggest praises I can give this opener is actually just the athleticism that both guys had on display here. Sonny Kiss in particular was really impressive. Sonny tries a nice looking handspring elbow, but Cody counters it into a full Nelson and almost looks like a master lock. He had that thing cinched in. But eventually Sonny escapes and makes a comeback. Sonny had a really interesting move. He had Cody like bridged in between the ropes in the corner, and Sonny's in the opposite corner, right? And he comes over and he does a nice little cartwheel, and on the landing he boots Cody right in the gut, and it looks really neat. But yeah, that of course gets a near fall. Sonny goes to the second rope and he hits his splits leg drop and he misses, so he's just sitting there doing the splits in the ring. Cody picks him up, he goes for the crossroads, but Sonny counters it. And Sonny Kiss hits a crossroads of his own, which I was really shocked by. A stolen finisher in the opener here, which that of course gets a near fall, but that pops me. And Sonny hits one of the best 450 splashes I've ever seen in my life for a 2 count. And after a short exchange, Cody deposits Sonny onto the ramp, and it looked like a vicious bump that Sonny took. Cody follows him outside and hits the Alabama Slam on the ramp. Looked like it hurt. Cody puts Sonny back in the ring, he goes for a cover, but Sonny wisely puts his foot on the bottom rope, and Cody is starting to get frustrated at this point. And that's when Cody takes Sonny to the middle of the ring and hits one of my favorite moves of all time, the Vertebreaker. It just looks so clean and so painful. And this version was so clean. Cody Rhodes goes for 2 straight pinfalls and 2 straight near falls, and there goes the belt. Cody is frustrated at this point. There's a really nice transition. Cody goes for a superplex. He's pinning Sonny, 2 count. Sonny manages to transition that into a roll-up for a very close 2, which Cody then transitions into a crossface, which eventually Sonny wriggles his way to the bottom ropes, and Cody, once again, very frustrated. He's complaining to the referee even. And the announcers make note of this. This is a great call, by the way. They're pointing out that Cody's having an off night. And that's made perfectly clear when Cody eventually exposes the turnbuckle. But that ends up coming back to bite him, as Sonny has a really nice looking lucha maneuver or whatever it was. I can't remember exactly the name of it, but whatever it was, it sent Cody face first right into that exposed buckle, into another inside cradle by Sonny for another near fall. And at this point we get an exchange of some pretty stiff forearms, which eventually out of nowhere Cody hits the crossroads, and that gets the 3 count. And I'm going to give this match about 2 3/4 out of 5. The work was good, definitely. I think they showed some great athleticism throughout. I think both played their roles really well. I think they told a really good story. My main issues with the match are mainly twofold. First and foremost, I feel like this match would have been a lot better if it got some more time, so that way they could have a lot more of these close near falls scouted throughout. I could imagine like this match being really amazing on pay-per-view, but honestly it just didn't get enough time. It's no fault of their own, but I don't know. And the other thing is, there was never any doubt in my mind that Cody was winning this match. No disrespect to Sonny at all. Sonny was super ultra impressive in this one, but I just found it a little bit too predictable because Cody had just won the TNT Championship fairly recently. I don't know, it was a fine opener. I guess I was just expecting a little bit more out of it. And after the match, we of course get the sportsmanship moment between the two. Really touching moment actually between them. But now we go into some tag team action up next. The Lucha Brothers taking on FTR. The Lucha Brothers get a big entrance in the FTR's old truck along with the Butcher and the Blade. And FTR is not playing around. Dax Harwood is starting off with Pentagon Jr. And this is a really stiff exchange. exchange. Lots of really, really loud chops. Very, very physical. A beautiful super kick from Pentagon Jr. He eventually tags in Rey Fenix. And there was kind of a weird misdirection on this little code red double team maneuver that they were trying. I think what they were going for is eventually Pentagon was gonna flip up over Fenix or something, but it just didn't end up happening. I don't know if they hesitated or what, but it just didn't look as clean as I would have expected. I'll give them credit. They were definitely able to improvise out of that situation. But then we start getting the vintage frequent tags in and out from FTR, and they were so awesome in this match. I will say it is still very, very strange to see FTR working as the baby faces in this situation, but it's something I could definitely get used to. And once we get to the aftermath of the match, I might talk a little bit about where I think this is going. But yeah, like I said, there was some amazing double team work from FTR as usual from them. Frequent tags in and out. They're starting to get the heat on Fenix at this point. Rey Fenix, by the way, was so incredible in this match. Lots of really, really sick kicks on them. There was one where, so Pentagon is rolling up Cash Wheeler at one point. Wheeler kicks out, but he goes right into a Rey Fenix kick, and that was a nice spot. But going into the commercial break, we get double super kicks on Dash, and there's a running kick on Dax, who is standing on the outside from the apron by Fenix. The Lucha Brothers are awesome, guys. The Luchas keep the heat on FTR as we look at the picture-in-picture commercial break. But eventually, once we pop out of it, there is a sick European uppercut from Cash Wheeler. He eventually gets the hot tag to Dax Harwood, and he starts running wild. He suplexes Pentagon Jr. on top of Phoenix at one point. God, this was a physical match. I mean, knife-edge chops, clotheslines. Dax Harwood hits a nice alley-oop on Fenix, who goes face first into the turnbuckle. Stiff stuff here. Lots of great double-team sequences from the Lucha Brothers. Springboard Lucha shit off the ropes, off of each other. Some really, really cool stuff they were doing here. But Fenix eventually becomes the legal man, and he ends up on Cash Wheeler's shoulders in a powerbomb position. Dax Harwood jumps off the top rope and hits a bulldog on Fenix from that position. It's almost like a Doomsday Device bulldog. Pentagon Jr. saves the pinfall attempt, which leads to a great sequence. Cash Wheeler goes for a money shot off the top rope, but Pentagon Jr. gets his knees up. Fenix does a springboard dive off of the ropes, and Dax Harwood gets his knees up, which leads to some "this is awesome" chants from the employees in attendance. But once we get the Cero Miedo mind games from the Lucha Bros, this is where the match really breaks down. Pentagon hits a sling blade at one point. There is a stiff exchange on the apron between Cash Wheeler and Pentagon, which shortly afterwards, really shockingly, Cash Wheeler hits a tope con suicida tornado DDT to Pentagon Jr. on the outside. I was not expecting that, to say the least. I marked out huge. And Fenix follows that up with a beautiful springboard splash to the outside. He was in orbit there. But back to the ring, the finish basically is Fenix and Dax Harwood as the legal men in the ring. And Fenix, you know how he does that like spring backwards thing in the ropes? It's like a reverse 619 almost. Fenix does that and he goes for like a kick or something. But Dax Harwood pulls Fenix's mask off. And Fenix is doing his best to cover his face. Dax Harwood rolls up Fenix and gets the 3 count. FTR wins. I'm going to give this match 4 stars out of 5. This was a very, very, very good match. These two teams had really, really great chemistry. Admittedly, this is not as fun as the 8-man tag from last week, but still very, very solid. I thought the finish was kind of, if I were to nitpick, I would think the finish was a little anticlimactic in the sense that nobody hit their finishing move. But nevertheless, I thought the finish was very, very creative and really, really amazing work from all 4 guys involved. And after the match, the Elite come out to celebrate with the FTR. They have the key to their truck, and they also offer a peace offering of beer. Kenny Omega offers them the beer, which is very, very unlike him. FTR takes them, they open them, and then they pour the beer on top of Kenny Omega, and he is so upset. Tension much? Let me just say that I cannot wait to see that eventual tag team title shot for the FTR. Following this, we get a promo from Le Champion, Chris Jericho, who comes out with the rest of the Inner Circle. JR with the great call. It's always going to be interesting with this guy. And they're all holding jugs of OJ after Chris Jericho's win over Orange Cassidy last week at Fyter Fest. And basically they're all out there gloating. I am the demo god. I'm the king of ratings, man. Worked shoot much. But Jericho's basically hyping up the fact that everybody's been telling him that his match with Orange Cassidy was great, which admittedly it was. I really loved that match. And he's talking about how everybody basically is asking him for a rematch, and he basically tells everybody that you're not getting one. What a dick. And the people in attendance go, you scared. You scared. And then here comes freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy in the crowd area. Jericho basically is starting to run down Orange Cassidy again. He's calling him lazy and a sloth, which isn't entirely inaccurate. And he basically says that he doesn't deserve to be in the ring with Jericho again. Get out of my arena, you piece of shit! And with that, Orange Cassidy just puts his thumb up in the air, doesn't say a word, and he puts his thumb down, and we get a big rainfall of orange juice from the ceiling, covering the entire inner circle. Almost like how DX doused the Spirit Squad with that green goo in 2006. Jericho demands someone throw him a towel and get him a new jacket that cost him $7,000. And lo and behold, someone does throw a towel to Jericho, but what do you know? It's got Orange Cassidy's face on it. And Jericho is pissed. And he's got to do commentary for the second hour. This should be interesting. And now I want to see a rematch. Very fun promo here. And Chris Jericho basically does say on commentary, by the way, once again, hilarious on commentary. Lots of really great one-liners. He does mention that there will be a rematch down the line. And the funniest part about this whole thing was that Excalibur kept showing the replay to us despite Jericho's dismay. And Excalibur called it a dousing of the year candidate, which really... I'm sorry, I just think Excalibur's hysterical. But then we move on to a 6-man tag team match. The Elite, comprised of Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, going up against the Jurassic Express. Very fun interview with the Jurassics before the match. Luchasaurus has a great line saying, after millions of years, or like 65 years or something, finally we're going to face the Elite. But Jungle Boy and Nick Jackson are starting off. Nice chain wrestling sequence to start. Jungle Boy has a great reversal to Nick's attempted X Factor, and these two had really good chemistry. Kenny Omega gets tagged in, and he says he wants Marco Stunt. And Kenny Omega towers over this poor lad. And Kenny easily overpowers him for a little bit. Marco Stunt, though, starts fighting back. And Kenny Omega hits one of the loudest knife-edge chops I've ever heard on this poor guy. But a really nice momentum swing, actually, for Marco Stunt, and now Kenny is frustrated. This leads to the tagging in of Matt Jackson and Luchasaurus. And Luchasaurus... really great in this match. A hard spinning kick to the head makes me think of Aleister Black's Black Mass. There is an amazing combination by the Jurassics in terms of triple team maneuvers on Matt. It eventually ends the sequence with Marco Stunt hitting a tornado DDT on Matt in the ring, which looked really clean. Marco Stunt hits a Hurricane Rana on Matt on the outside and he starts flossing. And then Nick Jackson runs the apron and kicks Marco Stunt square in the head while he's flossing. This may be the greatest match of all time. Of course, you get Kenny Omega alone in the ring. He does his Terminator theatrics. And he does a beautiful tope con hilo to the outside with a clean landing on his feet. And these guys are just unreal. They don't call him the Elite for nothing. But we get the picture-in-picture commercial break, and basically the gist is that the Elite retains the heat on Jungle Boy for the majority of it. But Jungle Boy makes an awesome comeback. I would argue that he may have been the MVP of this entire match. A stiff clothesline on Omega, as well as a really cool looking springboard DDT on Nick. And then we get the Luchasaurus sequence, and Excalibur notes that he is making it look easy against the Elite. There is a really nice sequence with Luchasaurus and the Bucks, which ends up with Luchasaurus hitting a chokeslam and then a standing moonsault on, I believe, Matt, and that gets a near fall. Because Omega breaks up the pin, and here's where we get the Omega Luchasaurus sequence. There is a stiff headbutt by Luchasaurus on Kenny here. Kenny hits one or two V-triggers, I can't remember how many, but regardless, Luchasaurus is not knocked off his feet. So Kenny responds by throwing the most vicious Snapdragon suplexes on all three of the Jurassics. And this eventually leads to my favorite spot of the match. The Luchas eventually take control. Kenny's kind of staggered on the inside. You got Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus on the apron. Marco Stunt is on the outside. And both guys on the apron grab the little guy and they hurl him over the top rope. And it's such a clean landing onto Kenny Omega's shoulders for a Hurricane Rana. Amazing spot there. The Jurassics hit the extinction effect on Kenny, but the Bucks break it up. The Bucks, of course, with their obligatory stereo super kicks on Luchasaurus, which eventually leads into the Tiger Driver 98 by Kenny Omega for a near fall. But then we get another awesome sequence. Jungle Boy with an amazing springboard Hurricane Rana on Nick Jackson, almost one-upping his own game. And that leads to a really, really clean 450 from Marco Stunt for a really amazing near fall. There were a lot of points in this match where I thought the Jurassics were going over. And I think the Bucks hurled Marco Stunt to the outside at this point. Took a nasty landing out on the ramp. But I stand corrected. This is actually my favorite spot of the match. So Marco Stunt eventually ends up on Luchasaurus' shoulders, and he is launched into orbit to hit a Canadian Destroyer on Matt Jackson in the ring. The pinfall is broken up, but wow. Kenny Omega eventually gives the goodbye and good night to Marco Stunt. Luchasaurus gets in the line of fire. He gets the V-trigger instead. Kenny Omega responds by hitting V-triggers on the other two also for good measure. Kenny Omega back in the ring goes for a one-winged angel on Stunt, and Stunt almost pins Kenny Omega with a roll-up. But a stiff V-trigger and a one-winged angel from Kenny Omega later, and that puts away Marco Stunt for the 3 count. The Elite win in my match of the night, honestly. I'm going to give this 4.25 stars out of 5. This was an absolutely insane match. It felt like something straight out of PWG. Lots of really insane spots. A lot of crisp, high-flying offense throughout. The Elite were absolutely fantastic as usual. And the Jurassic Express really stepped up to the plate. All 3 of them. And all 6 guys really delivered in this match. Match of the night for sure for me. Definitely check this one out if you were to watch one match from this show. From then on, we go to the Nightmare Sisters, the team of Brandy Rhodes and Allie taking on 2 jobbers. And I guess you know where this one's going. Basically, this was just a way to showcase this brand new tag team. The 2 are showing some animosity. They've got Dustin Rhodes with them at ringside. And Allie was hitting some of Dustin's offense. Brandy Rhodes actually really impressed me in this match in the ring. She hits a really vicious looking spear. I think she also hit a sling blade also at one point, which really surprised me. And Allie hits a big final cut on, I believe, I don't remember who it was. But yeah, Allie gets the win, 1 star out of 5. I mean, there were some creative spots thrown in there, but I think the match did exactly what it needed to, put this new tag team over. Out comes Nyla Rose for a promo, and she says she's been hinting about who her manager's gonna be, but she's gonna let the manager do the talking for her, and out comes Vicky Guerrero, as predicted. Excuse me! I can't do it as well as she can. Needless to say, I was very, very glad to see her. And all I'll say is I think this alliance has a ton of potential. Nyla Rose doesn't really have to do much of the talking anymore, and Vicky Guerrero can just be her mouthpiece. But we'll see where this goes. And from then on, we go to the night's main event for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. Of course, the defending champion Jon Moxley going up against the FTW champion, the challenger, Brian Cage, with Taz in his corner. Pre-match promo from Taz, basically nothing really too eventful coming out of his mouth, basically just calling out Moxley. And Moxley makes his big entrance through the crowd. He is wearing a Jimmy Havoc t-shirt, rest in peace. The commentators play up how big of a match this is, first time ever between these two. And the match starts out fast, a huge clothesline from Brian Cage to start off. Cage eventually takes over as Moxley tries to attempt a Fujiwara armbar. This will become important for the match's psychology. And there was a point where Cage has Moxley in his arms and he literally does curls with Jon Moxley and he just does a fall away slam. He just throws him over his head. Man, that guy is inhumanely strong. But then Mox hits a huge missile dropkick off of the second rope and Cage is knocked off of his feet. And Moxley goes for that arm again and he starts working that thing over. And this is the thing I was talking about. The announcers played up Brian Cage's history as he has a torn biceps, or had a torn biceps. And Moxley recognized that and went right for it. Great storytelling here. There's a huge back suplex by Brian Cage at one point, which folds Mox almost in half. And there's a really, really beautiful transition from Mox, who hits a tope suicida, and he goes, like, as he's hitting Cage after the tope, he goes right for the arm again. Really, really crisp work from Mox in this match. I was really, really impressed. But they start brawling through the crowd at this point, and the referee starts following them. Now, keep in mind, this match was not billed as a no disqualification match, and Excalibur points out that the referee is being very lenient with these calls because nobody wants to see a DQ or a count-out finish. This will play into my account for my final grade for this match a little bit later. But there's one point in this brawl where Cage's arm is wedged inside of one of the guardrails, and Mox kicks the arm while it's wedged inside the guardrail, and it looks really, really sick. Mox eventually takes another little steel barricade over to ringside. He lays it down one edge on the apron and the other one on the floor, so essentially like a diagonal bridge. It kind of backfires for him because Brian Cage suplexes Mox onto that bridge, and that's what leads into the commercial. We come back from commercial, and Cage has Mox up on his shoulders in a torture rack position, and he swings it back into a net breaker for a nice near fall. And then Cage goes right to the camel clutch. No submission victory here, of course. Mox eventually reaches the ropes. But back outside now, there is a chair just set up at ringside, a steel chair. And Brian Cage suplexes Mox into the chair. The bell does not ring. Again, this match was not no disqualification. But anyway, back in the ring, Mox starts making his big comeback. Couple of roll-ups for a couple of near falls. Lots of stiff shots by Mox. Eventually, Brian Cage hits a great power slam on him. Brian Cage misses a moonsault off of the second rope and immediately starts grabbing at his knee. And Mox hits 3 running knee strikes, none of which knock Brian Cage off of his feet. And there is a big exchange of stiff clotheslines, which leads into the paradigm shift for a near fall. And the announcers play up how big this is that Brian Cage kicked out of the paradigm shift. A superplex by Mox for a near fall, and another beautiful transition into the Kimura lock. And Brian Cage eventually powers out of that with a buckle bomb, one-armed, just, again, inhumane. Again, he's not called the Machine for nothing. And you guys know that superplex that Cesaro does to the guy when he's standing on the second rope and the guy's on the apron? Brian Cage hit one of those, and it looked amazing. But here's where the finish comes in. Mox eventually gets Brian Cage into a double cross arm breaker. This looks like a really, really painful submission hold. And Brian Cage is in this hold for a good 2 to 3 minutes, I'd want to say. And they're rolling through. Brian Cage is trying to escape. John Moxley is not letting that thing go. And it eventually gets to a point on a roll through where John Moxley is looking right at Taz at ringside. And he gives him the bird, and Taz is not happy. He's trying to encourage Brian Cage out of this thing, but Taz realizes that the torn biceps cannot happen again. So what does he do? He throws in the towel, and the referee calls for the bell. John Moxley retains the AEW Championship. I'm going to give this match 3 3/4 out of 5. I thought the work here was really, really great. John Moxley with a lot of really amazing transitions in this match. Brian Cage looked like a monster even in defeat. And I thought they told a really, really good story with Brian Cage's arm injury history, and the fact that Moxley couldn't exactly beat him with the paradigm shifts. Remember, he tried it once, and he didn't get the job done there. So he tried some different methods to beat this guy, and I really, really like that psychology. Now, the psychology also plays into why this match is not a perfect rating, because like I mentioned, the referee was very lenient with these calls and did not call a DQ when they were using weapons. This is the same problem I had with Mox's match against Brody Lee at Double or Nothing. That was a really, really great match, but it was not billed as a no disqualification match. I don't know, maybe I'm just a stickler for those details in the booking, but I understand that the crowd does not want to see a DQ finish. I certainly don't want to see a DQ finish in a world title match, especially on a big show like this. But I don't know, I feel like I at least would have advertised that this is no DQ instead of just having the ref do whatever he wants to. I don't know, just kind of weird psychology in my opinion, just kind of constructive. But nevertheless, really, really strong main event here for this show. The aftermath comes around. Brian Cage is kind of upset. He starts hurling punches at John Moxley, but the lights go out, and Darby Allin makes his return to make the save. Huge dive off the top rope, and the skateboard right to the throat of Brian Cage, and he retreats. Darby Allin and John Moxley walk around the ring and they celebrate. I thought Fight for the Fallen was a very good show. I'm going to give it 8 1/4 out of 10. I think when you have at least 2 4-star matches on this show, it's going to be a very strong one. It's a very easy show to sit through as well. But I feel like some of the matches A couple of the matches could have been stronger. Not all the matches were instant classics or anything, but it's definitely an easy show to sit through. I definitely recommend checking it out. Another solid night by AEW. But let me know what you guys thought of AEW Fight for the Fallen. I'd like to know down in the comments below. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you like it, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button as hard as you possibly can on your way out. Thank you so much as always for tuning into the video. Look forward to more reviews very soon. You guys are seriously the best. Thank you so much for your support of this channel so far. It means the world to me. And with all that being said, back talk, commence.